Hello, everyone. I am Humphrey Sidumedi. Welcome to the African Materials Research Society podcast, a show that discusses material science and engineering research development and its application in the development of Africa. On the show, we bring you leading researchers and experts in the field of material science, physics, chemistry, biology, and engineering to explore their individual perspectives and to offer valuable insights into the field of material science and related career paths. Joining us today for our series covering our first guest with our first segment is Professor Lesley Cornish from the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering at Wits University. She is also the director of ARUA Centre of Excellence-Materials, Energy and Nanotechnology, and the director of the DST or NRF Centre of Excellence in Strong Materials at Wits University. She also serves as a board member of the African Materials Research Society. The ARUA Centre of Excellence in Material Science, Energy and Nanotechnology enables an African response to the African Union Agenda of 2063. Focus is on the wings of innovation, the African Union Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa, which all aims to respond to the demand for science, technology, and innovation, which will impact across all the critical sectors such as agriculture, energy, environment, health, infrastructure development, mining, water, and security. Among others, it also tackles the UN Sustainable Development Goals, specifically goal number 3, which is good health and well-being with projects that are aimed at improving medical implants. Also goal number 4, which aims at quality education by better equipping graduates. Then goal number 5 and 10 respectively, gender equality and reduced inequality by expanding access to anyone interested in material science. Welcome to the show, Professor Cornish.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes. Our main focus for this episode would be on the ARUA Centre of Excellence that Professor Cornish is the director at. So the first question for you, Professor, as the director for ARUA Centre of Excellence, can you tell us about the work that the center does and what your role is, just to introduce what the center is all about?
Thank you. Yeah, so our center is trying to do research for materials, energy, and nanotechnology for the good of Africa. As will come out later, is we're really battling with funding, but we have got some. And what my role is to try and coordinate everything and put it together. COVID really hit us hard, and I've had to do much more than that, and much more than drive it and come up with a lot of the ideas as well. So yeah, and I do have a deputy director, and I've got a manager that's Marina, and she helps me absolutely enormously. So basically what we're trying to do at the moment is we're trying to find people who are interested, but mainly we're trying to find funding so we can do something meaningful, because without the funding, you can't do anything. So we did have one lot of funding, but it was a bit limited what we can do. And we're going to be trying for some more funding later on in the early year. So a lot of this depends on funding. But what we're trying to do is to do good quality research, say in materials, energy, and nanotechnology.
Yeah. Okay. Onto that, I want you to try to elaborate your role at the DST and NRF Centre of Excellence and how it links to Wits University and ARUA.
Right. I think without the NRF Centre of Excellence, we wouldn't have been sort of in the running for the ARUA. But because the NRF Centre of Excellence has been running since halfway through 2004. I'm not the founding director, but I've been the director for longer. And what that does is it tries to do the same thing as ARUA is trying to do, but in South Africa for strong materials. And we didn't have everybody involved in South Africa, but we had some good, we've had some really good things over the years, some really good networking outside. And basically, it changed from doing excellent research to making up and getting things more equal than they should be, getting more demographically representative. And that's been quite difficult because the NRF want quick turnaround times. And you can't just say to a student, sorry, you're the wrong color, you're the wrong sex, there's the door over there, but please close it behind you. So we're always behind the NRF, but we've done a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of papers and books and helped to run conferences. We've done a lot of stuff to build up strong materials in South Africa. And yeah, that was affected by COVID. And unfortunately, this is the last year of proper funding for that. But because we had the people resources, the people to hold that together, as well as the director, there was always a manager, there was a secretary at one stage and a bookkeeper. And we even had a grants manager at one stage. That's whittled down to 2 of us now, and we're doing the work that 4 or 5 people used to do. But because we've got that, because we know how to look after funds, we're in a good position for ARUA and anything else that comes our way. Because Marina's been doing it for donkey's years. She knows exactly how to look after funds. And when we get audited, it's not a problem. No, it's just sort of, don't bother me because I've got the auditors with me. But, it's not a big panic like I know some people have. And we've got a lot of the contacts within the university, within the South Africa. And ARUA is like that, but is wider subject-wise and wider country-wise. So, so really it's building on that. And we had another network called AMCEN, which was funded by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. And that was really good. But sadly, these fundings only last for a short period of time. And then they changed that program to running postdocs, which I didn't think was that wise, because I think students are more important than postdocs, because your postgrad students feed into your postdocs. But anyway, so that's what we are.
True that. Yeah, the reason why we're asking about the DST and the NRF, it seems like people are mostly always sometimes maybe confusing it along with ARUA. So we need to get it out there so that they are able to distinguish the difference between the two. If they are looking for collaborations, they know where to go, and something like that.
Well, in a way, our Strong Materials Centre of Excellence is morphing into ARUA. That's what I say. A lot of the same people are involved. So it doesn't matter if they come to the wrong one, because it can soon get changed. And after next year, so our Strong Materials has got just over a year to run. After next year, sadly, it won't exist anymore. So then there won't be any confusion.
Exactly. All right. I hear you mentioned a lot of challenges there into managing all these programs and trying to make them a success. But can you share a little that you can on the outstanding projects that you have embarked on, or if there is any milestone you have achieved, so that people can know where you guys are and where you are going?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. As I said, we ended up not doing what we wanted to do because of COVID, because our funding started just before COVID, and we were just planning to do things. We were going to do workshops and all sorts and grow from the workshops. That couldn't happen. So what we have done, which is really good, is we've got next the conference on the 19th, which I'm really looking forward to. And because we couldn't have the workshops, we've been doing videos, and I think we've got a range of videos. Some of them are on practical techniques, which will give people an idea how to do certain things. So if they're thinking about certain experiments, should help them to think, yes, this is what I want to do, or no, this isn't what I need. They won't be experts, but they'll know more about it. And we're hoping that they will lead to more collaboration. Then there's also a whole load of workshops, not workshop, a whole load of videos on writing. So it's coming, it's being split up into bits. There's writing a winning grant proposal. And then there's 8 videos on writing papers, and they are absolutely lovely. I've been learning from those as I check those.
Okay.
And then bits and pieces of interpretation. And those are going to be very nice because they're going to be around a while. And I think they're going to be a resource, a nice wide resource for people. And then we've got a workshop coming in Nairobi, because now we can start to move around. I hope monkeypox doesn't get too bad, otherwise it will be up again. So we've got a workshop in Nairobi, and it's planned to be a physical event as well as an online event. And what's happening there is, again, it's writing winning proposals, and it's also writing papers again. So I think that will be really useful, because a lot of people aren't as good as writing as they should be. And I think that's the stumbling blocks. So it's not, it's the clarity, it's the construction, and I think that's going to be very good. So there's going to be 2 people running each side of those, and then there's going to be 2 gophers helping the people with their writing under the auspices of the person who's giving it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think our videos are quite a nice thing to have done. I'm quite proud of them. There's some interpretation as well, and there's some more that might be coming along. And then, as I said, another thing is we've been talking to the UK Institute of Physics, and they are hoping to get a big project off the ground, which is to do with climate change and energy. And they've done the sort of running around. 2 of us from ARUA, our ARUA COE, were on that committee, and we put in lots of input. And now what they're going to be trying to do is set it up. It will take them a year to set it up, and then they'll be looking to do big projects. And what they were thinking about is to have at least 3 African countries per project. So it's not just for one person to do in their lab. You've got to collaborate. And I think that's the way to go for Africa, to help bring everybody up and to share things. So I'm very excited about that. Say we were part of the designing stage, and now they're going to run with it. And hopefully the ARUA Centres of Excellence will help. So so that's very exciting as well. So it hasn't all been doom and gloom. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to because of COVID. But I think it took us a while to adapt, and I think we've adapted.
Yeah, exactly. Because you are running through trials, but at the end of the day, I am sure those trials will be a thing for the past. So yeah, I think for all our listeners and our network, they will get hold of you and us on the conversations that we are having. Well, moving on. The aim for Africa as a continent is inclusive growth, sustainable development, and unleashing potential young scientists and engineers in the continent. However, this continent is faced with challenges in agricultural development, environmental sustainability, climate change initiatives, equal opportunity for all, decent health services, and high quality education, among others. So in essence, I wanted to know, what are some of your focal areas as the Center of Excellence?
Okay, remember we're materials, energy, and nanotechnology. So basically we can try and improve the standard of living through safety, through safer materials. On the education front, we can improve things and try and help people get better educated, and that's male as well as female. Because I realize, there's a whole load of problems, and a lot of them, in terms of opportunities, a lot of them for young people, the first step is education. Another thing I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it with our other Centre of Excellence, but we were told not to, is to try and get in the idea of entrepreneurship, because we can't all be employees. And I think we need to be thinking that people ought to grow their own businesses and make their own businesses. And a couple of my students have done that, not because of me, but because I think I helped them get the metallurgical knowledge they needed, and then they went and got the other knowledge. And even at WITS, we're looking at that more. So I'd like to see that. So we're not necessarily providing employees.
Yeah.
We want to, employees are useful. But we want to provide more than that. So we're working on that. And that's it's a very fluid environment. And I think it's very different from country to country as well. But that's another thing. Although having said that, if people do become employees, that's also good. But it's be just restricted to going and working for somebody. Get the knowledge that you need, and and then try and press it ahead. It takes a while. I don't think that necessarily young people should go into be an entrepreneur in light materials until they've got some experience. But down the line, we ought to be looking at making our own people, our own country, our own companies. So it's bigger than that. And the nice thing about ARUA is there's 13 centers of excellence, and they cover a whole variety of things. And we try and work together. We have regular meetings. And although we're all fairly new, we started to be established in the first ones in late 2018, and new ones keep popping up, and there's going to be some more in the future. I think we're going to be together. We're going to be a very powerful thing. And as I said, we meet regularly online, and if something is cropping up and it's not really to do with this center of excellence, we can push it towards the other. Like there's a food security center of excellence. There's migration and mobility. There's a whole bunch of them. And I think, and they are meant to cover, this whole thing about the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
True.
So we're sort of piece in a jigsaw.
Yeah. All right. No, that's understandable. So moving on, we're going to talk about strategic partnerships and collaborations, which is mostly a beacon for development, a beacon for Africa to work together, even to be able to compete in the global scale. So what can you say about prioritizing collaboration? It can be either between universities or any other non-academic institutions on the development of Africa. And how would you say various African countries perform in terms of collaboration?
I think Africa's pretty good in some places for collaboration, but I think there's room for much more improvement. And what I'd like to see is where there's big equipment, that it's shared more. Now, it is quite difficult, because if some academics brought in a piece of equipment, that academic wants the lion's share, but we've got to try and get around that. One of the things we need, and that's what we're trying to do, is raise more funds. And we're hoping to target some European Union money to try and do something. I only know a little bit about it at this stage, but the opportunity is there. And I'm hoping that will bring something in, because you need money. To collaborate, you do need to move people around. Okay, you can send samples, but it's not the same. And, it's much better. People work much better if they can see each other occasionally, even better than our online thing. To me, this is second class. It fills a niche, but if you can get there and meet people properly and share things and scribble things on bits of paper, it's much better. So we're looking for more money for that, but I think it's really, really important. We did apply for one grant, we didn't get it, and that was a big research grant, and that would have been great. And we already had quite a lot of African countries trying to get that, but of course we didn't get that, and so that was a bit disappointing. And for the rest of the, yeah, so yes, at the moment we've got some of the collaborations aren't sort of the hardest collaborations are between South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana. And then there's collaborations developing with Uganda. We've lost Tanzania a little bit. We've had good collaborations over the years with Nigeria and with Botswana. We need to fan those, get those fires working again. One of the big things with collaborations is you need in every country and in every institution that's part of the collaboration, you need a champion. And I think one of the things that knocked us back with COVID is we lost some of our champions. One passed away, one got very sick and took ages to recover and never really came back as the person he was. He's still getting there, and I've got great hope. So we need that, and that's what we had under AMCEN, and it worked really well. And I'm sure it would have worked under ARUA if it hadn't been for COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still working on that. Don't give up.
Yeah, we won't give up.
And I think if we get this lot of money, I mean, it won't be ours necessarily, but it will be an umbrella to run programs under, from the Institute of Physics. They are UK Institute of Physics. They are really, really keen to work with Africa. And that would be really great. So yeah.
All right. That's really great. Well, we'll keep on hoping that everything works out for the good. And we really, like you said, we need champions. We need people to lead forward so that we can be able to make strides in this field. So in your own words, there's an existing partnership or collaboration between ARUA Centre of Excellence with African Materials Research Society. Can you elaborate what does that mean to Africa and the whole material science and engineering community?
Yeah, I think the two can be stronger by collaborating. One of the things with ARUA, the ARUA Centre of Excellence, is it's supposed to be mainly the ARUA universities. They do allow us to collaborate outside, but it's supposed to be mainly that. And that's where the African Material Research Society, that's wider than just the ARUA universities. So that, that helps us get the reach we want to. And I think that's great. And also the African Material Research Society, you're much better set up than we are for electronic things like this podcast, like the conference we're having on the 19th of August. I'm not saying that WITS couldn't have done that, but you guys are already set up with that, with your databases and everything, and your links to other places. So some of our links are common, but some of them are different, which is great. So I think we're stronger together, and we're doing slightly different things, and I think that's super. So to me, it's very important. And also our videos that we've been collecting are going to be on the African Materials Research Society website. So that's good. That's just amazing.
It is. On behalf of African Materials Research Society, would like to thank you very much for that, Professor Cornish. We are really trying so hard to make sure that we nurture this collaboration between your Center of Excellence with us, the site, so that it may grow beyond what people are seeing now. It can end up being something way bigger, because like you said, we are doing a bit of different things, a bit of the same things, but along the way we feed onto each other where we lack and where somebody can pull you through. So this is what actually Africa needs, and all these institutions that we have, we need to have such an umbrella of a collaboration, all of us. So anyway, to trouble you a bit, do you mind maybe telling us what you guys have planned for the rest of the year? Are you anticipating any project to start soon, or any collaboration you are looking forward to before 2022 ends?
Well, I've mentioned the workshop in Nairobi. That's very
Yes.
important because
Yeah.
due to COVID, this is our first proper workshop. And the other thing is we're trying to get as many people together to go to the African Materials Research Society conference. I mean, to me, that would be really important because that's a big meeting in person. And we haven't had that since early 20.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us are still coming back to work at WITS, and a
Yeah.
lot of the things aren't sorted out properly that we used to have in line. So we're still really getting back physically, which I think is awful, but I can understand why. So those are two big things. We're pushing with our videos, and yeah, I'm hoping that maybe we can have another mini conference. I was actually overwhelmed by the response for the abstracts, and they all came in on the last day and the day before. I was totally swamped, but I think that's good. And maybe we should have another one. And this one was really to try and, you know, put a feeler out there and say to people, hi, you know, we're here, doing things together. And I think what we should do is we should have more of them, but more tailored. So pick a theme and run with that. Whereas this one, it's a bit of a lucky dip. There were very few people turned away. And so there's going to be a wide range of, if you like, levels from students to more experienced people, and also a wide range of topics. So I think that will be good, and that will be a taster. And I'd like to run more as well. So
exactly.
And maybe some more workshops now that we're a bit more freer.
Yeah, because I think now things are opening up.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no, they had it. They had it. I'm sure they will be looking forward to seeing all those events coming in. They will be hoping to see those workshops. We'll be organizing them, those mini conferences, coming more often than they have been, you know, because I think maybe people sometimes, when you don't do something so often, they tend to maybe zone out and like, it doesn't matter anyway. But if we keep on trying every day, or maybe once in 3 months, we do mini conference, you know, we would get people interested and actually uncover a lot of things that we didn't know they existed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got some ideas for those. It was just so difficult for us to sort of get out of, we just had so many other things we had to do. I mean, it sounds pathetic, but COVID really knocked us for six. We're crawling out of our little cells now. And yeah.
All right. In our conversations that we've been talking, we've been mentioning a lot about funding and so many challenges that are around funding and all of that. But in essence, research and innovation requires funding.
Yeah.
We cannot do anything without funding. So even though your Center of Excellence has been experiencing challenges, how do you navigate those, the funding environment and the challenges for you to be here today? Because it tells me that you are here today. It means even though there are challenges, there's something that you are actually doing to surpass those challenges, even though there is no funding, but you keep on pushing forward until you are here today.
Yeah. The thing is with funding is that you mustn't give up. No matter how many times you get rejected, you're allowed to go and have a cry in the toilet for half an hour, but then you've got to come back and get on with it. Because you're not going to be successful every time. And you've just got to keep trying. When you're not successful, try and think, why not? And I've got a rule, and I argue with people about this rule, but it's been helpful, is that don't chase funding unless there's a fit. You know, there's got to be a fit or a match, because if there isn't, you're just going to get thrown out. So it's got to be something that's suitable. And a number of times people are just so desperate, they throw effort into something that's not suitable. and then they get discouraged because they didn't get it. But maybe, so don't chase everything. There's got to be a fit.
Yeah.
And you've got to try and use all the people that you've got access to. We've got very good people at WITS who can point us in directions. Sometimes we can put things together, sometimes we can't. One of the things which is getting quite difficult is that most funds, they want a big research consortium. And they also want somebody from industry and somebody from here and somebody from there. And you spend time building those up, and then you find that the industry person drops out. We've had that happen earlier this year, and it was so discouraging because they had enough to do and they didn't really need us and blah. So, but you've just got to keep trying and just keep trying. One of the barriers that hinder I'm running on, that hinder funding in Africa is this going across the countries. That can be quite difficult because a lot of countries, if you try and get international funding, they are more sympathetic to crossing the boundaries. But if you get funding from inside your own country, they don't like you giving it to people from other countries. We found that with our South African Centre of Excellence. And over the years, they got more and more restrictive because we used to have a lot of students from Africa, and then we had to whittle it down, which was really sad. So we didn't kick anybody out, but it meant we couldn't accept any more. And that was sad because that was doing what I want ARUA to do, to get people to go to the best places to do their research. If there's somebody you need from another country, get them in as a co-supervisor, or push the students that way, and they can be the supervisors. So yeah, so if you get money from, say, South Africa, they only want it spent on South Africans. If you get money from outside, it's more flexible. The head of ARUA, Prof, he is doing a lot of things to try and get money for Africa and different grants that we can apply to. And that is really great. So he's chasing. He's also speaking, I mean, the whole ARUA thing came from the African VCs, and that's where ARUA came from. And then the Centres of Excellence came from that. So there's a lot going on at different levels. And I think there's going to be more ARUA Centres of Excellence. Well, not I think, there will be. There'll be a call for those. And I just think this is going to be so good. And we've got to really just try and pull together and getting the funding. One thing I have seen is that sometimes, and this is difficult to handle, sometimes you get funding and they'll only be interested in funding, say, 2 countries. And I think you've just got to go with that and say, okay, not everybody can be part of this, but hey, let's grow this meanwhile. And although that seems rotten to the people who aren't in those 2 countries, it's just part of it. What I'd like to see further down the line is where we have lots of different funding, and maybe it's between 2 and 3 different countries each, lots of funding, lots of grants between different countries, as well as some nice overall umbrellas that can get us to move people around. So I think what's going to happen, looking at the things we've been chasing, is that the funding will be probably for the actual research itself, or to sort out the problem itself, will be between certain countries. But then we need overall funding to try and get the education thing more sorted out and move people in between the countries. And that's another thing we found difficult, is we did have money from Carnegie again for postdocs to move around, and well, early career researchers. But so many of them couldn't get the visas. And that's sort of Africa being against Africa. And that was so frustrating. And we tried again at all levels to sort that out. And yeah, certain countries wouldn't give visas to certain other countries, which was a pain, because that's also going to stop what ARUA is about. But again, we're going to be hitting that at different levels. So,
yeah. True that. I think African countries need to collaborate more so that these borders and laws and regulations that are there, when it gets to science, maybe they should try to minimize them to allow for fluid movement between such initiatives. Because I know how funders are. Funders, maybe they might say, no, this one, like you said, they'll be specific about where they want their money to be spent, because probably they're looking at how governments relates from one country to another. So we need to have a better relations in terms of governments so that fields like ours don't suffer trying to come up with solutions for the whole continent. So yeah. All right. Moving on. You held a talk not so long ago about women in science. Studies have indicated that there is so much underrepresentation of women in STEM. In your experience, were there roadblocks or challenges that may have been influenced by your gender? Or what kind of changes, if any, do you think need to be made to encourage more diversity in material science research and other STEM-related fields?
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes from the schools. Because if you don't have, we can look out for female students and nurture them at the universities. But if you don't have enough females from school coming through, you're all going to be fighting over the same female students. And we already get that because companies, certainly in South Africa, love female students and they would prefer to give them bursaries. So that's for their undergraduate. And then what happens is there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I get this and I'm not criticizing it, but the companies then want the students who are now graduating to go and work for them. So now what happens is that you're stopping those people going on from postgrad to postgrad. And it was very, it was thought out to say, let's encourage female, but you're putting in a false ceiling unless they go to a company, which I call the enlightened ones, which will let them do part-time research as part of their job. And that's something which I meant to say earlier. That's a lot of universities, I'm digressing slightly, but I'll come back. A lot of universities don't like part-time students because they're more difficult to look after. It's much easier to have somebody who's on the premises and you can go to the lab, tell them off and all this sort of thing and make sure that they're sticking up. But if you've got somebody off campus, they've already got their main job and it's difficult for them to juggle. And this university, WITS, doesn't really like that. But I think that is that's a wasted resource, both for those people who are now stuck because they're working, and also for us in not being able to help those people. And we could potentially be working with those industries. Okay. Now, that also applies to women who, especially when they're bringing up children, they might not be able to work full time. So you need something more flexible on that. And what I'd like to see is to try and bring out something that's more flexible, both trying to help and work with industry and work with students who are part-time. Okay. Yes, they take longer and the universities usually allow them to take longer. And you can also cover that with women who are bringing up their families. So I think a bit of flexibility will be sorted out. And one of the nice things about ARUA is that because we've got so many different centers of excellence, I think there's people sitting in different centers of excellence who would be better able to push this because they're more on the sociological side. So yeah, things aren't, I think things don't look great at the moment, but there's an opportunity we can get in there. And that will also bring industries nearer the universities, because I think some of them think we're too highfalutin and we think they're just too mercenary. And get on and do stuff. And that's what I wanted. One of the things I wanted to do until COVID got in the way and locked us all up. But yeah, there's there's many ways with not just females to get them out there.
Mhm.
So going back to, we need more females doing the STEM subjects at school. And I think the environment needs to be more friendly to females. There's the whole issue of menstruation and not having the pads. I mean, that is terrible. And the girls don't go to school, so they miss out. So they get behind. That's terrible. And then there's, you know, in South Africa, we have gender-based violence, and women are frightened. Children are frightened. And we need to try and get over that. So that's holding people up. And then you get into the sort of the environment where men are supposed to be better. Well, I don't believe that. Some men might be, but not all.
Yeah.
And the women should be given their chance. So this again needs to be hit at very many levels, some of which are outside what we do. But if we keep plugging away and try and make my bit better, or our bit better, I think then there's hope. And the fact that, okay, I'm the wrong color, but the fact that I'm a female and I've done quite a lot of good stuff is, yeah, you know, you can see me as a role model. And I was the first person in my family to go to university. And I really fought to go there. And yeah. And then some other people have been going in the lower generations. But initially it was sort of, well, what do you want to go there for? You know, why can't you just get married and have kids? No, I don't want to do that. So yeah, role models and being there and helping, and it's on so many different levels. But encourage, you know, encourage the girls at school. We call them learners in South Africa.
Yeah, true.
And don't give up. You know, don't give up. I mean, I was told that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and I just thought, rubbish, I want to do it. When there were places when I was a student that they didn't want a woman there because they didn't have female toilets. Well, there's a way around there. You go in there and you know, you say, okay, there's a woman in there now, she's only going to be 5 minutes, but then she'll be out. So you can get around that. It just needs a will, you know, bit of lateral thinking.
True that. I think I don't know what is worse, if it's COVID-19 or gender inequality. I'm still trying to understand what's worse. What is worse now? Because it seems like gender-based violence, generally all these inequalities are much worse than a pandemic itself. So we need to do better as people, we need to do better as countries and come together and say, you know what, enough is enough. Women are also important. They play a very critical role in our society. Look at you now. You are really impacting a whole lot. You are revolutionizing being a woman, saying, but I can do it. I'm a professor. I can do it. If there's a child out there, somebody saying you can't do it, but look at Professor Cornish. She is where she is. Even when people doubted her, you know.
Exactly. You know, and women don't do that sort of thing. There's a rather less than that now than when I was growing up. But yeah, I mean, women, I was told, no, that's not a woman's job. Rubbish.
True. And so some end up believing that and they quit. Most of them, they believe it and they quit. So I think, like you said.
The other thing, if I can just quickly say that it's also really important to educate women because they have such an influence on the family. So if you've got an educated woman in the family, she will encourage her children and her other relations to get educated and to think about things and to see things and just go beyond what's the sort of norm. So it's vitally important to get educated women.
Yeah. They need to change. We need to change perspective, to change the perspective. All right. We are nearer to closing. So there's an upcoming, now I want us to talk about the upcoming ARUA Centre of Excellence mini conference on materials, energy, and nanotechnology. which will be on the 19th of August. So if you could provide an insight on the purpose of the conference and what people should expect, because I'm sure most people are still waiting to hear what is all about, what is going to be going down there. So if you can, the floor is yours for you to,
Thank you. So basically we asked for abstracts and they all came in at the last minute, or most of them. So we've got a whole range of abstracts, and they're from a really wide range of themes within materials engineering and nanotechnology. They are from Tunisia to Cape Town, so I think that's not bad.
Yeah.
And Côte d'Ivoire to Kenya, I think. I think we've got a Kenyan one, which isn't bad. So we've got, we seem to have got a wide range of people. Because there were so many abstracts, I didn't want to turn anyone away unless they were really way out. And there was one that was really way out, and there was one that was incomplete. So because we've got so many abstracts, the 4 plenary speakers, they get a quarter of an hour to talk, and everybody else gets 10 minutes. Okay, and it might seem rather rushed, but if you've got 10 minutes to get your ideas over, then you tend to do a better job in a way, because you think about what you're going to say, than if you've got 20 minutes and you sort of waffle. So it's going to be I think there's 26 different presentations, and at the end will be a discussion. We decided not to have questions after each one, because after each presentation, because it would just slow it up. So that's what we're doing. So it's going to be a wide range of things that are being done in Africa. And I think it's very exciting because there's so many different things, and it's great. And I'm hoping that will be like a taster. And then later on, what I want to do is have more themed conferences. So looking at maybe materials for medical uses, looking at energy, various sorts of energy. Okay. So at the moment, everything is in the same pot, but that was just to try and get, get some interest going.
All right. Yeah, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The mini conference is on the 19th of August. So make sure you follow our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn pages so that you can get the link, so that you can be part of this exciting conference on materials, energy, and nanotechnology. There's a lot, like she said, there are a lot of abstract that will be shared, a lot of ideas going to be shared, and it's a taster. There's still more to come from this mini conference. So we'll be expecting to see a lot of people coming through. So for anybody who wants to get in touch of Professor Cornish, our website is open, www.africanmrs.net. You can go in there into the website. All the information is there. You will navigate through the ARUA Centre of Excellence page under there. And also you can always email us at africanmrs.secretariat@africanmrs.net. So yeah. So anyway, Professor Cornish, let me thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an insightful conversation, and I'm really hoping that it would spiral out so that it can impact someone's life out there. And the whole of Africa now would know that we have a platform that exists where we actually talk about science, material engineering, and everything that is concerned behind the whole field and topics. So I really thank you for joining me today. So at last, let me invite everyone to the 11th International Conference of African Materials Research Society. Professor Cornish mentioned it later on in a conversation there. So it will be held in Dakar, Senegal from the 12th to the 15th of December 2022. So kindly log on to African MRS website so that you can get all the details and get who you should talk to, Yeah. Thank you very much.